listening to the Nerdy Reads podcast, a hipster goblin media production.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Nerdy Reads podcast for week 2 of Dungeon Crawler Carl. We got some chapters we're going to discuss today. And if you missed 1 through 19, well, then I suggest you go back and check that out, either video form or you can check us out on wherever you prefer to listen to your podcasts. But Robert, give us the rundown about where we're at today.
All right, man. So previously, we have Carl and his ex-girlfriend's cat, Princess Donut. They're thrust into a deadly alien game show where Earth is destroyed. The dynamic duo has to navigate floor 1 of a reported 18-floor dungeon filled with monsters, strange rules. But along the way, they meet a mysterious NPC named Mordecai, who is like the tutorial non-player character tasked with helping Carl learn the way the dungeon works. Where we last left off in our reading, Carl and Donut found the dead body of another crawler named Maggie, who was killed by a crawler named Frank. Carl and Donut realized that outside of the dungeon's monsters itself, they may have to worry about other crawlers as well.
Yes. And so those first 19 chapters were really, really cool. It set the stage for what we got a chance to really engage in this time. And, so we kind of left off and they were getting ready to go to what they went to floor 2, right? Or were they about to?
They were about to go. So they were in a safe room on floor 1. And they're just kind of chilling. Well, Carl realizes they're not alone in the safe room. And right off the rip, we have Frank, the crawler who player killed Maggie, coming out the woodworks to Carl. And he's like fabricating this story, and Carl picks up on like some little nuances Frank leaves out, and he's like, man, Frank's lying. And Frank and his partner tried to attack Carl and Donut in the safe room, but due to the rules of the game, they froze in place for trying to attack them in a safe zone, which was actually a pretty cool scene. I dug that. But I don't think that's the last we were going to see of Frank. And Carl and Donut escape. They set a trap and they continue on their journey, dude.
Yep. And so then he gets in they start to see signs. They get some indications that there are people ahead or something ahead. Do you trust these people? Do you not? So they keep on pushing forward. And what they find is maybe one of the saddest things that we have stumbled upon in this book so far. This has been a very different type book. And actually, Atalanta Ash has been very active in the conversation on our Discord. But I think she mentioned this even, talking about how this book goes from funny haha to, aw, like now I'm really sad. Like this is
it's
dark.
A good balancing act, it's man.
A very balancing act. And so, you go from this madness of, where Frank tries to kill him. And I even liked how, Carl picks up on the fact that Frank doesn't know how to type with his mind. And so he picked up that his fingers were moving as he had his arm lifted up. So he was typing to somebody else. Yeah. And all that stuff, like you said, the nuances that he was seeing. But then they get to this group of people, and it's like 3 or 4 people who are defending a elderly home. So it's a bunch of poor 80-something-year-old people who are all level 1 and 2. It's like they ain't gonna make it.
And
go ahead.
And they're care nurses and stuff. And it's I've read enough of Dungeon Crawler Carl to know that this go in bad for them.
You ain't wrong. And then it's the part that tore me up is that then there's the girl who has the 12 red skulls next to her. And, man. And then Princess Donut's like, we got to take her out. She's a player killer. And Carl's like, I don't think that's what this is. And you find out later that she had to take out elderly folk.
Man.
Because they were burning alive or whatever. And they were like, it'd be better to kill them with a sword than for them to have to suffer through this madness, And you're like, dude, it just every time you laugh at something in this book, every time, whether it's some crazy Fallout, description of an item or whatever the case may be, there's something like this that strips you right back into reality that there's a talking cat and the cat's cool. And yes, there's some funny things in this book, but then there's this and you're like, but this is also like very disturbing at so many levels.
I think that's the dark humor, and then the way he kind of grounds it back a little bit is a very nice balancing act so far in the early half of this book we've checked out.
100%.
Yeah, but so they decide they're going to help these people, but they're like, we all need to level up first because there's like a burrow boss, I think they called it. Is that the next level? Yeah. And it's guarding the stairs down the floor too. And he's like, we're going to take this thing out, but we need to get stronger. So Donut and Carl go to one of my favorite fights already, is in the gym against a dude named the Juicer. Who was like a troglodyte, but he was a dude, bro. And he's
man, dude.
The fight in the gym was so rad, dude. He's throwing like the plates at him and stuff.
Yeah, dude.
And like potions to put fog out. Like the entire fight was great.
And I love how when it's over, so like, you know, the Juicer like knows they hit them a few times or whatever. And the previous neighborhood boss that they fought, like she was like screaming in pain and clearly didn't want to be there. But the Juicer was different because at the end of it, like Carl beats him. He goes, "You fought through the pain, bro." Like, it was the funniest. So I've been doing a blend between the audio book and the physical book itself. Not physical, sorry, the digital, because it's actually on Kindle Unlimited too.
Oh, that's cool.
So I've been doing both, and the voice narration of this book adds so much to it, dude. It's hilarious. But when I happened to listen when the Juicer bro was on there, he's like, "You fought through the pain, bro." Like it was hilarious.
I like that after that fight, Donut's like over there feigning death as she's healing.
Yes.
And Donut's such a great character, dude. But like Carl got a gauntlet after beating the Juicer, and all I pictured in my head is Carl with his little boxer shorts.
That's it.
Still has no pants.
Well, you know, and it goes to show too, because there for the longest time, I was kind of like with Carl a little bit, because, you know, Carl was like, "Dude, Donut, your strength is like what? I can't remember, like 29 or something.
It's
I don't know.
Crazy. It's high.
It's like way higher than even Carl's." And so, like, you know, Carl's like, "Dude, use your claws," you know. And I was kind of like that too. I was like, "Bro, all you're doing is shoot fire and magic missiles. Like, you have like all this strength. You can go out and just take out people with just by slashing them." But it goes to show against the Juicer, there's a little more to it than just your strength stat, because Donut got worked, and Donut we almost lost Donut. And if we would have lost Princess Donut, we wouldn't have episode 2.
Yeah, I'm done. So I'm having Princess Donut. I riot, y'all.
Yeah, that's
real
right.
talk. I think one of the I guess not cool. I mean, it goes back to that dark part of the story, but one of the bigger revelations about Floor 1 up to this point with me is just like how fast the survivors are whittling down in this thing. Because we were at like 13 million, and they go back to like that safe room after fighting the burrow boss to watch the TV show to only find that there's like 2.5 million people left. And I'm like, dude, they lost 11 million people since that last episode. So like that dungeon's running through humanity at an alarming rate.
Yes. I mean, it is crazy because it's like a consistent flow. It's ticking down constantly.
Yeah.
And I think that just adds more pressure to the whole situation. One character we haven't talked about, what was her name? Was it Abigail?
Oh, Agatha?
Agatha. She's the one with the shopping cart, right?
Yeah.
So, like, you know, here's Agatha, who's this lady. I guess she hung out around the elderly home, but I guess she was homeless is what I'm picking up on. She hadn't even gotten her inventory yet, so she still pushes this cart around. And when they go to fight, so there's a point where we're getting to it, but
I mean, we're there. Let's go.
We're there. They have to fight a boss to get to Floor 2. Like, and this boss is epic, right? It's not your neighborhood boss. This is a real deal. Like, really, this is Donut burrow boss. This is their first like real, like, this is a boss that can get them on the TV show or whatever it is that everyone so desperately understands that they need to get onto in order to, get better stuff. And so they're getting ready to do the thing. And so Agatha sneaks in with them. And so they got this plan. And I love the way that they described it, because typically, I mean, in this dungeon, if you have a skill, that was with you in real time, you bring that skill into the dungeon. Like, so when they came together to make this thing to fight this burrow boss, they used maintenance men. Like, these guys were maintenance men for the elderly home. So these are your electricians. These are the guys who would build the things. They would fix the refrigerators that were broken and all that stuff. And so they tasked them to help them come up with a way to build basically a makeshift fort out of just a bunch of junk.
It was like very Minecraft, right? Like
a little bit,
all this crap they had to build something. But dude, can we talk about the boss?
Yeah, the boss is this boss was an interesting one.
They go in and they get the big video game announcer, and they have all their faces on like key cards, and they're about to fight the boss, and it's announced as the ball of swine.
Yes.
And it's just a giant ball of pig creatures called like tusklings. Yeah. And they form this ball by, we try to be a family friendly podcast, so I can't say how they form this ball, but it's unhinged in the humor of this book, the way it is. But the ball just speeds around the room at an alarming rate. So they're trying to build this makeshift fort, like speed bump style thing. They like slow the creature down, but then it ends up getting like wedged in between them in the ceiling. So you have this scene. You have Agatha, who's completely worthless, chilling down at the bottom with her shopping cart. She's mad because Carl stole it, by the way. She's like, give that back. He's like, I will. We need it for a second. Hold up. And she's just down there, and it's describing like all this pig blood, all this stuff raining down on her. They're just stabbing at this pig thing until it pops. And the ball swine pops, and the arena changes, and they had to fight off the individual pigs, which are really no threat to the party at that point. But I was like, dude, what is this book?
Yeah, and so it's crazy because when they're this big ball of swine, they even talk about how like they're just yelling like the whole time. Yeah. Like it's just like this squeal, this crazy sounding squeal. And the thing about Agatha is that she hasn't even gone into the tutorial yet. So she doesn't even have an inventory. So everything she has is in that shopping cart, you know? And so they got her, who is basically, like you said, a worthless character for a fight. And then, you know, a bunch of like people who worked in a nursing home who are just trying to figure it out. You got Carl, and then you got our friend Princess Donut, and they're trying to take them down. The homie. Now, when all these swine are locked in together and doing the thing, they're dangerous. But when they aren't together anymore, they're just these itty bitty little humanoid pig things that are pretty much crushed by our team. And then they go down to floor 2.
Which, honestly, I'm actually surprised. I was happy to see we were going down a floor. I was concerned we were going to live on level 1. I'm happy so far it seems the elderly people made it to floor 2 as well. But Carl and Donut, they go on an interview. They get on the TV show. It's not like the main program, but it's like the highly coveted, like, what is it, the after show kind of type deal. And they met this Odette lady who was like using the bodies of crabs for legs because she was a former crawler, lost her legs in a dungeon, and now she does the show. And Donut's like eating it up. She knows from her year of being a show cat, she knows how to work the crowd, and work the crowd she does.
Yes, she does. And so it's funny because, you know, I guess when they sat down with them and the way they described even the agent or whatever this girl is that comes in to tell them that this is what they're doing, she's basically a human, but everything's slender. Like even her face is like super narrow. And so you're just kind of picturing this like alien-esque looking human person. And basically she's saying, hey, this is a pre-recording. So you're going to hear cheers. Like all of it's fake. It's a fake audience, like all this stuff. But even then, still knowing all that, when Carl walks into that space, like he's still like bewildered. Like, what is going on? Like lights are going off. Like all these things are happening. When they see the host of the show, she looks insane. Like it's like a crab body with like gigantic top side of her, you know, like with a praying mantis head. Like it's just sounds absolutely bonkers. It is awesome.
The whole book. I love this book so much, dude. I like him grinning every time I'm reading it, dude. The dark humor, the video gaminess of it. I love it all. They finally get down to floor 2, and it's like, you know, exploring a level 2 is kind of slow to start. It's more of the same. They're killing these weak grubs, which obviously they're getting kind of some foreshadowing, like, hey, if they eat too many carcasses, they'll be a problem later. So they're trying to kill these grubs as they go. We know we gonna see some nasty grub boss later, I'm sure. But 100%. They get into a safe room, open their loot boxes, and my favorite thing, my girl Donut's a necromancer.
Yes, she is.
Now she's summoning the bodies of the dead to fight for her.
Donut, it's so funny. Like, our man Carl can't even get a pair of pants. And our girl Donut just keeps getting more and more epic as she goes along, dude.
She gets all the loot, dude. It's like playing a video game with you. I've been there, Carl.
Please. Dude. You know what? One of my favorite things I love so they find the moonshine.
Oh, yes. That's so good, dude.
And I love
the pyramid scheme of it all.
The pyramid, which is hilarious. But then, Carl gets an idea of how to take out lots of enemies without using like their bombs and stuff. So he basically takes the torches, because they keep getting torches in all their loot boxes, like torches by the plenty. And so he takes the torch, he sticks it into the moonshine jug, and they basically use it as like napalm bombs, essentially, where it just like fries and kills all this stuff. And I love how the system came over and they were like, what was it called? Do you remember?
Carl's Juggo Boom.
That's it. Carl's Juggo Boom. And so like he literally got a item named after him. And then later you find out that because he created this item, any other player or crawler who creates this Juggo Boom or makes a Juggo Boom and uses it, he gets like 1 gold for the rest of eternity. Not just for this crawl, but for every future crawl. So, and Carl's like, I don't know why anybody would make any more of these, but you never know. Our boy Carl could end up being rich in his.
He could. I hope Carl makes it out, bro. I want him to make it out of floor 18, but something tells me aliens ain't gonna let him. But they formulated like a plan against some fairies, and that to lead a group of the moonshine monsters to a room where Carl was able to use his Juggo Boom to like pretty much 86 them all in one go.
Yeah.
And then they dispatched the fairies. And I guess of note, one of the fairies called out for Damien as it was dying. But then we had like a shift in the rules. Like previously, the bosses couldn't leave their rooms, but the boss left its room over here. Carl and Donut are just trying to loot where these fairies were. And next thing they know, they're locked in a boss battle with like some weird tentacle monster described with human lips and teeth on the tentacles. I was like, what is this thing, dude? It was called the Krakarin.
And that's the thing too. It's like this exaggerated version of our culture stuff. Like we were saying earlier, the juicer, the Karen, all these things that we look at as, our culture, the things that are funny, the things that are pop culture, even like, and it's just exaggerated versions, makes fun of so much of it too. And just that, I think that's one of the things that makes this book so great.
I agree. And I like that the Krakarin was the leader of the, MLM moonshine. That made it even better, dude.
Oh yeah. 100%.
That was an epic boss fight. And at the end of it all, Carl like basically sacrifices himself to save the best character in the book, Princess Donut.
Poor Princess Donut.
But then Donut was like pleading, like you saw she's like been putting up that tough facade the whole time about Carl. But when she actually thought he was going to die, she's like, no, Carl, don't leave me. And she's like, I had that image in my head when they said Donut's like using her strength to pull Carl out of the room. I just picture this cat dragging a man by his little cloak. And I'm
sure. Well, even then, like, because Donut's like, I know I talk all this trash, but you're like, I don't know if I could make it without you. You're my second favorite person behind me. Like, come on, bro. Come on.
Yeah, dude. But, as we're ending our coverage of this week, like, our man Carl got a new pair of boxers with little hearts on them.
He got the boxers with hearts. Yeah, he's moved up, bro. He's moved up in the world.
And then we end on like what you said is a pretty good ending point. Like Mordecai's like, you guys have a special guest coming to get interviewed. It's an admin of the game. And that's where we left off, dude. So we're going to finish our coverage next week. I had a couple things before we hop off here, dude. Like my first one, like you mentioned, Agatha, like what's up with her, dude? Because I have like a prediction or a feeling. I think she's like an alien spying on the crawlers, but maybe she really is just bat crazy. But I think there's more to this Agatha character.
Yeah, I mean, she's not gone.
Because they edited her out of the video when they showed their fight against the ball of swine on the TV. They noted that Agatha was like edited out when she was there. So something's up with that, dude.
Here's what I think's going to happen, bro. I think she's going to end up being a boss.
Oh, dude, that's cool.
That's what I think.
Yeah,
I don't know. I could be way off on that, but that's what I was thinking whenever they edited her out, and they're all convinced she's dead. Essentially, they're like, I guess they edited her out because she's dead. And in my mind, I'm like, no, I think she's going to come back. I think she's going to be a boss, and they're going to have a hard time getting rid of her because there's that like connection,
that attachment. Well, speaking of that, man, they bring up Carl's father a couple times when we read this go around, and they didn't paint him in like the best life. We got like a very small glimpse into his backstory. There was like the story where his dad just kind of drove off after a semi truck had an accident, and Carl's mom's like, stop, and his dad wouldn't stop. He kept going. And then Carl talked about when he's using the slingshot, how he had one when he was a kid, but his dad broke it, promised to get him one, and then never did. So, dude, do you think like this little peppering is just some backstory into Carl, or you think his dad's popping up in this book, his dad in the dungeon?
So, I don't know if I'm convinced about the dad. I am convinced Beatrice is going to be in here at some point.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know where she's coming in on this story, but I feel like we are going to see her without question that she will be here at some point. So yeah, I don't know, but the dad thing, like you said, though, I mean, it does help us understand Carl a little better. So it could be a story, but then again, like if we run into his dad at some point, I wouldn't be surprised about that either. A part of me thinks that this game, and Mordecai alludes to some of this at times, but a part of me thinks that this game in general, it's built to mess with you, and so I feel like the further these crawlers get, the more personalized these dungeon rooms are going to become.
That's pretty cool, dude. That's a good take.
A part of me wonders, like, maybe you're right. Maybe it is Dad. And maybe Dad ends up being somewhere here and he plays a role in it. Maybe he's a boss. I don't know. But a part of me thinks that maybe we're getting some of this story stuff because the dungeons will start to shift because, eventually, like even Mordecai was like, I was the only one that made it to that point. Like by the time we're going to get down to these like later floors, like there's going to be hardly anybody left. It'll be Carl and Donut, hopefully.
Yeah. Because we were already, I think the last count we had was 1.3 million humans when we left off.
Yeah.
And we didn't talk about how popular Donut and Carl are after their interview, but we're talking billions of followers, viewers now, which is great for Donut. Bro, so, we're going into the ending. If you're reading along with us, we will be reading to the end of the book. I've only got really one ending prediction, and I guess they make it down to floor 3 and the book ends. Like, given the pacing of the book so far, I don't think we're going to see very much, if any, of floor 3 in this one. Cliffhanger ending's all but inevitable. What that ending is, dude, I couldn't even begin to guess, because this book has been about as unpredictable as they come, and I'm here for it. It's been a long time where I've read a book and I can't like pinpoint where I think the story's going at all, other than like Carl and Donut are going to keep leveling up.
Yeah, it's just so random. I think
I have absolutely no prediction of where this is going.
No, I'm with you though. One thing I do know for certain is we aren't going to see Carl exit the dungeon. And I mean, there's a little evidence to that too. I mean, there's like 7 books of this. So Carl's going to be going through this dungeon for a minute. I also don't think we're going to get off floor 2 in this book. I think that maybe what we'll do is we'll see them get to door 3, get to it. But I don't think that we're going to see the next level. So we aren't going to know what classes they choose or any of that kind of stuff. So now we're going to end up reading book 2.
Yeah.
Because I'm gonna be interested. I got to know what Donut picks, because I'm very interested in what
like if they change races and stuff.
And a part of me thinks that Carl and them will probably stay what they are, but I wonder what classes they're going to choose. Like you mentioned it last week. I think Carl will probably be a brawler. I agree with you 100%. But now that Donut's got these necro abilities and she's got the charm abilities, like, what's Donut gonna do? I don't know. I gotta know. I'm gonna need to know, and I don't think I'm gonna know in book 1. So I'm gonna have to read book 2, figure it all out. But
agreed, man.
So far, this has been really, really good. And like you said, we left on a cliffhanger. There's also some indication that Mordecai and the host lady, what was her name again? Do you remember?
Odette. Yeah, she dropped that thing about him.
Yeah, and so there's an indication that there's some history there. I don't know if we're going to learn what that history is in this book. I don't know if those two are crawling together at the time, and maybe there was some sort of betrayal, or maybe when he was crawling, she betrayed. Who knows? Maybe there's a love interest. There's never, like you said, it's hard to predict anything in this book.
It really
is. Do you have a last 3 words for us this week?
Yeah, for this week, my last 3 words are going to be a very edited last 3 words, but gosh darn it, donut.
Gosh darn it, donut. That is perfect. You bring that up, and just for, I don't know if we mentioned this or not, but it was funny in the book when she was like, go ahead, Carl, go ahead. Say your line. Say the line. Say it. And he's like, what are you talking about? And then they go back through and show all the times that he said, gosh darn it, donut. But obviously edited. So yeah, that's good. I like that. I don't have anything to top it. But guys, like Robert said, we will have the last part of our coverage of Dungeon Crawler Carl Book 1. Loving this so far. Hope you guys are enjoying this too. We had a lot of traction on video 1. Stick with us. This is video 2. We will have one more here on the Nerdy Reads podcast. We enjoy a good story. Believe that your story matters. So be good to each other. Stay nerdy, our friends. Say bye, everybody.
Later.